we probably, like most wholesalers, conduct independent surveys with contractors. Like, how well do we perform? How good is this? And list the important factors. And 95% of the time, price is not the number one. It's not listed as the number one. Service is listed as the number one. Stock availability is listed. Price comes 3 or 4.
Yeah.
Translate that to day-to-day business. There's no correlation.
No.
Price drives everything. And again, it comes back to, are we kidding ourselves that we are more brand conscious than we really are? It's, for me, it's all linked into the same thing. It's honesty. Let's have an honest conversation. If we don't want a brand, let's not have a brand.
Yeah.
But let's not purport when we get asked that, oh yeah, brand counts, when actually, well, no, it doesn't.
Yeah.
You know, I've got this quotation for £10,000 worth of 20 mil conduit galvanised, and you're too expensive.
Yeah.
Yeah, but whose is it?
Yeah.
What is it? Where does it come from? I'm only speaking personally, but within the last month, I think I've seen a dozen major project quotations go through. Very few of them are brand specific, and most of them are price sensitive.
Yeah.
So I think, you know, maybe it's a bit cynical to say that we are moving towards brand. I think when we talk brand, I think there are certain aspects of brands that are becoming more important to people depending upon where they sit within the industry. So I think on major projects, large scale developments, yes, there is a demand for quality. There is a demand for standards, but it still doesn't detract from the fact that they still want the lowest dollar for that project.
Yeah.
So again, it's about, are we kidding ourselves? Are we kidding ourselves that we're doing one thing when we're actually doing something else? Maybe, you know, as an industry, we're not prescriptive enough. Maybe when we talk about brand and brand loyalty, we don't actually describe what that means. We don't fully explain to people why this costs 100 and this one costs 75.
Yeah.
But often we don't get the opportunity to it.
Right.
We can't necessarily educate every person in every branch to have that debate.
Yeah.
And in a lot of cases, when we have that debate, we still end up with the comment, yeah, nice debate, but you're too expensive.
Yeah.
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 So I think it's back to the overall thing of where the industry sees itself in the UK versus where it sees itself in other countries. I still don't think we place the industry at the right level.
Right.
And I think that's one of the fundamental differences for other countries and their success. We place it in the UK at a certain level, and we don't treat ourselves the way that we should. We don't give ourselves the credit that we do.
Yeah. We
kind of, it's electrical wholesaling, or it's manufacturing, as if it is somehow less than scientific research, or, you know, working in the World Wide Web, or developing new iPhones, or that. It's a critical part of the infrastructure of the UK.
It's the backbone of the country.
Yeah. So, you know, maybe part of solving our problems going forward is to put it at a level that it should be. That doesn't mean everybody in it has to attain that level, but it means this is the level, this is the standard that the contractor expects from his wholesaler. This is the standard. This is the standard that the wholesaler expects from the supplier or the manufacturer. And put it at a level maybe that is higher than we are able to do today. Yeah. Because it should be something we attain over time, not something that was in easy reach, because otherwise it's not really stretching us beyond what we do today.
Yeah. I mean, when in terms of Metpro's brand, it's something that we're we're trying to cultivate. I think we've set out our stall pretty well.
Yeah.
And we try to be informative all the time. I mean, conversations like this, very open and honest for everybody, to anybody who's watching, to get a, this is unedited. It's unscripted. It's not manicured.
I think they can tell that.
Yeah. And that's on purpose, because we want to invite people in and see what we're trying to do. However, it's a very good point that fundamentally we can do as much as we want to. We're blue in the face. If the market at the end user level isn't making the demands further down the supply chain, then we have to operate within those demands. Otherwise, we'll go out of business.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's often a perception, really, that some of us control the markets more than we do. End users, architects, specifiers, they often leave specifications so wide open that people switch spec. Yeah, people, but we haven't got this, we've got that. But there's not enough due diligence in whether what you're actually being offered is the same product, the same quality product. We're often accused of being too expensive. Yeah. Part of that reason is, okay, but we stand by every product we sell you. Yeah. Every product, every supplier that we deal with has gone through a degree of due diligence and is constantly reviewed. Now, reviewing doesn't mean that we always romp up on site to wander around and see whether you're still adhering to environmental policies or ethical policies, but it does mean that we constantly review the product. We have access to our own laboratory in Paris. We can send any product that we stock or sell to the lab and get it tested to make sure that it actually does conform with what the manufacturer says it does. Because we're not technically competent ourselves. If we receive a delivery, yes, we can tell if it's really bad, but technically, we have to go by what we're being told. So I think that there is an element of we have to understand the markets better. We have to understand who the influencers are. We have to appreciate quality more. And I also think we have to be less afraid of identifying people who are not conforming. There seems to be a distinct reluctance to criticize. Now, I'm not necessarily advocating that we become more American.
And grab pitchforks.
And grab and produce what I call anti-adverts. Where we say, well, this supplier by name buys, or his product is inferior to our product. I'm not suggesting that. What I am suggesting is when we know for a fact that a product sold in the UK market, installed in the UK market in compliance with the regulation, fails because it isn't any of those, we never say anything. It's very quiet. It's everybody kind of sweeps it under the carpet moment. That everyone's happy to talk about it, but nobody's actually exposing it.
Which is incredible when you think about, I mean, obviously some products aren't necessarily life-threatening, but when you're talking about load-bearing products, steel channel, even the conduit tube, even clips going into the trunking we've got here, and if there's a fire, and making sure they hot, if those products aren't to a standard, there's a risk, and I would argue a vastly increased risk, that you could potentially kill somebody or cause somebody to struggle in escaping a building, for example, which is what happened with some firefights in London, hence the Amendment 3 of BS 7671. And if manufacturers are putting products out into the market and people are buying them because, well, it was 5p cheaper, then we are potentially putting lives at risk.
Well, I think we underestimate the integrity of some of the products that we supply. So 41 by 41 channel. Okay. If that's all you ask for, 41 by 41 channel, there's no control over the quality of what you'll get, because any cable management system, any cable management product, you've got all kinds of specifications that you need to consider.
Yeah.
You know, the quality of the material, the integrity of the material, does you know, is it the right depth? Is it the right millimeter? What's the metal?
Exactly.
Yeah, you know, I've seen, and no doubt many people have seen, you know, product that you can twist in your hand because the metal's so thin.
Yeah.
So I do think we underestimate it. Yeah. So channel, yes, but channel's load bearing. Yeah. You know, what's hanging off the channel. Yeah. And so I do think that, you know, certain areas we kind of accept the fact that if fire alarm panels don't work, yeah, you know, there's a threat to life. But actually, if you look at an awful lot of the product we sell that we don't perceive to be a threat actually is a threat.
Yeah, exactly.
Even down to simple things like screws.
Yeah.
You know, we're screwing stuff to a wall or a ceiling with a screw that is inferior in quality but 20p cheaper. You see an awful lot of that. Yeah. We don't allow that. We don't permit that. I alluded to it earlier. Yeah, I find myself these days having to justify the price of brass screws because people can buy them much cheaper. But when you look at the product and you test the product, you know, the content, the lead content, the nickel content of the screw is completely different. Yeah, you can screw it in the wall. Yes, you can walk away from it. But as long as we accept a system where product can be installed, somebody can walk away from it, and it falls down in 2 years' time, but they're not bothered anymore. That's a deep-rooted culture problem that we somehow need to